Better schools do try to be genuinely inclusive of children who have all sorts of difficulties, whether that be mental retardation, autism, physical problems, ADHD, whatever. And in being inclusive and training other children to accept the differences and celebrate the strengths of these children and not just concentrate on their weaknesses and inadequacies. I think the better schools that do that do a fantastic job, but it is very difficult, and it's particularly difficult when community attitudes of regarding ADHD as non-genuine or some kind of moral failure. When those are so prevalent, it makes it hard for schools to fight against that. But the better schools do.
Okay, and
I think partly there's historical reasons for that. In the past, we've tended to look at those things in a moral perspective and to say, well, they should get themselves organised, they should pay attention. And we've talked in terms of should, and we apply those things to ourselves, and we all have a struggle with paying attention, doing the things that we don't feel like doing, getting organised. We all have a struggle. And so some of us tend to think, well, if I can do it, they can do it. But of course that's not true. And there are some people who try terribly, terribly hard, but they still can't manage to organise their lives. So it's partly the historical way that we've looked at it. There is also the fact that there are certain religious groups that are opposed to the diagnosis of ADHD and who see it as some sort of non-genuine condition, and it's part of their religious belief that this should be opposed. And the science, although it's really indisputable now because there's decades and decades of it and it's all pointing in the same direction, but the science is not read by the average person. And the popular attitudes from years ago tend to be those that prevail in the community rather than the attitudes that are more appropriate to a proper reading of the science. A lot of the major professions such as psychology and medicine are currently thinking and revising their thinking in this area, and I think they will gradually lead the community into a more sophisticated understanding of ADHD, but it will take time. When you think how long it took for us to accept things like autism and even mental retardation, you only have to go back a few centuries and we were putting people in institutions and just regarding them as hopeless cases. So a proper understanding takes a long time to achieve.
okay,
I think it's hardest for children because they don't understand why they get the negative reactions that they get from others in the community, and they are more hurt by it because they are more vulnerable, because your self-esteem develops when you're a child, and if you feel generally that you are approved of, that your mistakes are forgiven, that people around you have good expectations that you're going to be a success in life, then you develop good self-esteem. But if you're constantly getting the opposite reaction from people, the chances are that you will feel deeply discouraged, and that's why children are at particular risk of low self-esteem when they have ADHD. Well, I am happy to talk about it because 5 years ago I wrote a book about that very topic, and in the process I discussed the issues with my sons, and they were both happy for me to say what I said in the book, which was pretty much that their childhoods were more difficult than average, and that there were difficult times within the family, and yet that they did succeed in the end. My book is called ADHD Potatoes. Now that's a strange title, but it's the punchline to a joke, and it is explained in the book where that comes from, and it fits into the theme. And it's a story about our family's experiences with ADHD, and also tells a little about the background in Australia in the 1980s and 90s, where the professions were just learning about ADHD, and where there was quite a struggle going on between those who believed in it and those who didn't. So the book is still available, and it's referred to on the website of the ADHD Coalition of Victoria Incorporated.